The Lithuanian Chronicles, or Belarusian Lithuanian Chronicles, are three redactions of chronicles compiled in the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. All redactions were written in the Ruthenian language and served the needs of Lithuanian patriotism. The first edition, compiled in the 1420s, glorified Vytautas the Great and supported his side in power struggles. The second redaction, prepared in the first half of the 16th century, started the myth of Lithuanian Roman origin. It gave a fanciful genealogy of Palemon, a noble from the Roman Empire who founded the Grand Duchy. This noble origin of Lithuanians was important in cultural rivalry with the Kingdom of Poland. The third redaction, known only from the Lithuanian Chronicle, elaborated even further on the legend, but also provided some useful information about the second half of the 15th century. The three redactions, the first known historical accounts produced within the Grand Duchy, gave rise to the historiography of Lithuania. All medieval historians used these accounts, that survived in 22 known transcriptions, as basis for their publications, and some of the myths created in the chronicles persisted even to the beginning of the 20th century. First redaction. The first of the short redaction was compiled sometime in the 1420s in Smolensk, when Vytautas the Great hoped to be crowned as King of Lithuania. This redaction included the earliest known historical account produced in the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. This ist Witold Sashe Werdiejagalin und Skargalin, a complaint and memorial written by Vytautas in 1390 during the Lithuanian Civil War. It detailed his power struggles against cousins Jogaila and Skirgaila in 1379 to 1390 and supported his claims to his patrimony in Trakai and title of Grand Duke of Lithuania. Two translations of this document survive: Latin Origio Regis Jagielloe with Old Educum Lithuaniae from the 15th century and Russian Litovskomu Rodu Pochanok from the 14th century. Later this document was expanded to include events up to 1396. It formed the backbone of the first chronicle. The first redaction survived only from later transcriptions and compilations. The earliest known compilation was prepared in Smolensk around 1446 by Bishop Gersim and his clerk Timofey. The compilation also included a praise to Vytautas, written by Gersim, a story about Podolia, written in 1431 to 1435 to support the Lithuanian claims against Poland in the Lithuanian Civil War, a description of power struggles between Svitrigaila and Sigismund Kęstutis, a short summary of Moscow's chronicles, and latest events in Smolensk. The compilation also did not survive in its original state. It is known from several transcriptions. Avramka Chronicle, compiled by a Smolensk monk named Avramka in 1495. Uvarov Chronicle, also known as Slusk Chronicle, compiled by the court of Olelkovich, Prince of Slusk and descendant of Gediminas in the 15th century. Suprasul Chronicle, compiled in the middle of the 15th century and preserved in a 1519 copy found in the Suprasul Orthodox Monastery. Second redaction. The second, more extensive, redaction was compiled in the second half of the 15th and the beginning of the 16th century. The redaction traced back the foundations of the Lithuanian state to the 1st century, when legendary Palemon escaped from Roman Empire and settled at the mouth of Dubysa. He founded the Palemonids dynasty and became the first ruler of Lithuania. This legendary part was then followed by the revised first redaction, detailing the lineage of the Gediminids, Mindaugas, the first king of Lithuania crowned in 1253, and other earlier historically attested dukes were skipped entirely. The elaborate story that Lithuanians were of noble Roman origins had no historical basis and was discarded by modern historians as nothing more than a myth. While many modern historians discount the text as useless, it can still provide useful bits and pieces of Lithuanian history as it incorporates many garbled fragments of earlier documents and chronicles. Also, the mythical Palemon is a good evidence of political tensions and cultural ideology of the Lithuanian nobles in the 16th century. This myth served Lithuanian interests in conflicts with Poland and Russia. Poland, then in personal union with Lithuania, claimed that it brought civilization to this barbaric pagan land by creating fanciful genealogies, linking Lithuanians with noble Romans. The Lithuanian nobility could counter these claims and demand political independence. This redaction rarely included dates and contained several independent stories that were cherished by 19th-century nationalists. Legends: how Gediminas founded Vilnius because of his dreams of Iron Wolf, how Kęstutis took pagan priestess Barud for his wife, how Vytautas lavishly treated his guests at the Conference of Lusk in 1429, etc. Among them were some factual stories, including Algirdas' 3 sieges of Moscow. This format differed significantly from other Slavic chronicles that tended to list interrelated events year by year. The second redaction also considerably trimmed and fragmented parts about Ruthenia and Grand Duchy of Moscow. Thus the text became primarily about Lithuania. The chronicle was popular and often copied. At least 5 different versions survive. It shaped the political mentality of the Lithuanian nobility, formed basis for the Lithuanian historiography until the dawn of the 20th century, and inspired many literary works. Third redaction. The third and most extensive redaction is known as the Baichawaic Chronicle. It is based on the second redaction. It is believed that this redaction was prepared around the same time as the second redaction with support from Albrecht Gostautas. The only known version was discovered in a manor owned by Alexander Baichawaic and was published in full by Theodor Narbutt in 1846. This transcription was updated to include events up to 1574. Initially there were doubts if the chronicle is authentic, and some suggested that Narbutt falsified it. The doubts were inspired by its sudden discovery and its peculiar similarity with the chronicles of Maciej Strychowski. Also, Narbutt is known to have falsified several other documents. However, new evidence came to light that portions of the chronicle were published in 1830. Historians now suggest that similarity with Strychowski's works resulted from using the same document, maybe even the original third redaction, as the source. The patriotic themes were even more prevalent than in the second redaction. It continued to elaborate on the Palemon legend. To improve chronology, Palemon was moved to the 5th century Rome, devastated by Attila the Hun, and Mindaugas and other historical dukes were incorporated into the legend. It also concentrated more on the Catholic Church than earlier revisions, which paid closer attention to Eastern Orthodoxy. It is an important source for the late 15th century events, especially years of Alexander Jagiellon.